my next question is, if Mr. Biden wins the election, so what will it mean for America? Is America is going to collapse if Biden wins?
If Biden wins,
Yeah. Just an outlook.
6 months ago, I began writing about truth and reconciliation. That the Democrat Party activists would need, that there need to be a process, and they might need some help to transcend the Trump derangement syndrome,
Yeah.
and especially the hardcore Antifa leaders, and it would need to be basically re-educated. I'm not proposing camps or anything like that.
No.
You need truth and reconciliation. As you know, I'm a prophetic writer, and the themes that I write on tend to become policy even months later. I will be the first one to use that keyword or to write about the idea, and then later you'll see it on The Hill Rising, or you'll see it on Jimmy Dore, or you'll see it on Kyle Kalinske, or you'll see it on any number of YouTubers to the Democrat Party, because they're trying to get ahead of the curve, because I've been identified as a thought leader who creates ideas for Russian subversion campaigns. So they think that by reading what I'm doing, then they take those words and those ideas and stuff. So, for example, when I was writing about the chaos and bloodshed ahead, I was writing about that over a year ago, about the upcoming elections, and I talked about how it would happen, and those were the techniques the Democrats began to take those keywords, ban those hashtags, and use a full campaign to get ahead of the curve. So the reason that this is important is that when you take, for example, the situation of what happens after the election, the Democrats are now saying that they're going to do truth and reconciliation, that they're going to have to take the Q-tards, put them in concentration camps or something. There'll be COVID-19 camps that have an educational component. Basically, it's going to be for COVID deniers. If Joe Biden wins the presidency, I would say that you won't experience a big shift in relations with China that's observable to most people, because by and large, Trump has only begun to steer the Titanic away from the
iceberg
with China policy, and it's very hard to do that. Okay, so you're not gonna, with Biden, the biggest problem is that we've encountered now this, and you and I may disagree, because I think Russia and information around COVID, and I can't even say that word, you have to edit it out, around the beer bug is a big problem, okay, because this is actually can go a number of ways that are very ugly. And we already have New Zealand making concentration camps. Governor Cuomo announced that New York is now a militarized zone, that military checkpoints to enter into New York. You have to prove that you are COVID negative. Sorry, edit that out. We can't use that word.
Okay.
You have to prove that you are beer bug negative.
All right.
To enter into the city, which means that you've had a test somehow, the one that has a 93% false result rate. Okay, it's a 93% false result rate, which means that it has like a 47% false negative rate, false positive rate, something like that. It's a real big problem. Okay, and they are trying to look. Trump may also be a part of this. Don't get me wrong, okay? But we've entered into a new political paradigm where there's opposition to this new normal and the Great Reset and the long dark winter and the beer bug and the permanent lockdowns and the permanent quarantine and the cashless society and the surveillance state. And Trump may just be doing a politics to absorb that energy, to build power off that energy. But just like the social democrats and socialists and communists did for generations in Europe, people were voting for socialism and communism and never got it. Okay, likewise, Trump, this new populism could be like how the left dealt with parliamentary politics for 100 years in Europe, which basically jack shit was done. So Trump may just be absorbing the politics of anti-lockdown, anti-quarantine against the beer bug, but may be perfectly willing to negotiate. I don't know that he has tremendous power over the Rothschilds and the globalists and the World Economic Forum, the Davos people. This is not a conspiracy theory. People go to the World Economic Forum website. This is the Davos people. This is huge in terms of forming policy at the level of the UN. They get the countries to agree. They are completely changing the society overnight. They're acting like World War III just happened, and that we are the survivors of a nuclear holocaust, and now we have to like reorganize society. That they're acting like the zombie apocalypse has already occurred, and now they're the CRM or whatever that are like coming in and like, okay, this is what's happened. It turned out that crazy AJ Jones, it turned out that he was right about 95% of everything he was ranting about from his bunker in Texas for the past 30 years. I mean, welcome to 2020. It turned out that this guy was right. Let that sink in. So this is a very big, very, very big problem. And, if Joe Biden wins, you're going to see a transformative experience among people that we only saw a little bit of last year around Easter. There's going to be a greater awakening than people have ever seen before. It's like there might always be the possibility that there's like a sleeper agent for good or some white hat embedded in these insane plans. Because anyone who understands, they're trying to make people prisoners in their own homes and also make concentration camps. Well, they don't and I'm, it's like, do they understand what happens to people in prison? So some of them get into drugs and others start fucking trannies. But a lot of them get into greater spiritual dimensions and greater spiritual realities. They have a transformative experience. Like people go to prison and they have spiritual awakenings. Not all of them, not most of them, but like most people that you meet who are like, let's say, Jesus freaks or new Muslims come out of the prison system. And that's what I'm trying to grapple with here. Because if Joe Biden becomes president and we have this dark winter and we have this quarantine, we're going to be like England or Australia or New Zealand. They're going to spark. Now, doesn't mean people will not win the political battle, but people will overcome the fear of death because people have direct mystical experiences when they are under intense pressure. Trust me, I know. People have intense transformations when they're placed under intense pressures. Okay, and they are sometimes directly visited by God or an angel or something like this. Not like a hallucination, not in a dream. I mean, in real life. Okay. This is what happens to prisoners in their prison cells in the dark. This is what happens when people are in solitary confinement. That's what we need to grapple with here. So there is no problem for the human race. There is no problem for the human race, okay? Each one of you is a divine entity that has the spark of eternal creation inside of you. There's nothing that can destroy that. This world is an illusion. This comes and goes. We could eliminate poverty. We could cure cancer. We could overthrow the oligarchs. We could have rainbows and unicorns, and you're still going to fucking die relatively soon. This is just a battleground, a testing ground. This is simply an experience of a fractal reality of multiple existences that are overlapping, that you are a divine being created by a central divine being. You are just one sense organ among many of the other tendrils and nerve endings of a single consciousness of the universe. You are the experience of the universe having consciousness as an individual going through the uniqueness of your daily life and of your realities and all the relationships that you have with other people. This is what Joe Biden's handlers don't understand. This is what Bill Gates doesn't understand. Bill Gates is a failure in life. Bill Gates has never succeeded in anything. He is the most terrified person that you'll ever meet. He is the weakest person that you'll ever meet. This is so. Will they succeed in some sort of lockdown? If Joe Biden wins, it'll happen much sooner. If Trump wins, it might still happen, but it'll happen later, or in a different way, maybe a better way somehow. The thing, and I've written about, and this is its own subject, is that we are approaching the fourth turning, the fourth industrial revolution, the fourth great awakening. We are living in a time where the number 4 is prominent in this stage of the yuga, in this yuga that we are in. And this power of fourths is very interesting as a subject, because the Joe Biden presidency I would say that people who want to speed up some apocalyptic situation would go for Biden. If Trump wins, you're going to see political realignments in Australia, New Zealand, and England, where anti-lockdown, anti-beer bug, anti-quarantine movements will be increasingly showing Trump banners, will be increasingly using the WWG, WGA, WWG1, where we go one, where we go all logo. You'll see that everywhere in New Zealand, Australia, and England. The Conservative and Labour parties will be overthrown by a new populist movement that might come from, it might be actually in a strange way the UKIP in England, but we'll see. But I think that Nigel Farage has lost a lot of credibility, and he doesn't have a strong character. He doesn't have a strong presence. He's a little bit wiry. He's kind of a skinny, small guy. But I think that the Biden nightmare is a very scary nightmare. The Trump scenario is going to try to pull Australia and New Zealand out of China's sphere. And that's why the Hong Kong issue is so important, because it's not that Hong Kong is not going to somehow, it's not that Taiwan, Hong Kong are going to avoid being under Chinese control. But in the war strategy, you have to have some kind of forward pivot that's, a bargaining chip. You have to bring the fight to them. And I like China, and I like the Chinese, and I have a lot of respect for
I also have a lot of respect for their accomplishment.
No, I every time I see the anti-China rhetoric or this stuff, the Communist Party, that means nothing.
Fuck off.
But just that's how people understand things at a certain level. You understand it on that level. So, but Trump is going to take the anti-lockdown, anti-quarantine movement and operationalize that into parliamentary revolutions that are going to overthrow the government in New Zealand and Australia and England. Maybe Bojo will stay around. He's just an opportunist, but I think he'll be gone. I believe he's part of the plot. His father wrote the book about the thing that we're doing right now. His father wrote the book called The Virus, about how a virus was created to be part of a plot to reduce world population and create concentration camps and lockdowns. His father wrote that book 40 years ago. So that's not an accident that he's the prime minister at the time that this is now happening. You see, coincidences don't happen like that, okay? And it, the prime minister of New Zealand is a complete sociopath. She's has some disease of the mind and the body. She's you can look at her and see that she's sick. I mean, she's like 38 years old, but anyone would say she's 60.
Wow.
And she's never worked a day in her life. And she's always she's like one of those people that maybe you knew her in school. She was like the teacher's pet, and then she was always trying to get in front of the classroom and act like the teacher and tell everyone what to do.
I knew such people at school.
She's like a Model United Nations, a Young Government Association, whatever, young Young Leaders Society and stuff. Those people, she's a walking, talking resume. You call it curricula vitae, CV. She's just a resume building psychopath. Likes to tell people what to do. She's power mad. She has a disease. I don't know if she's like an adrenochrome addict or something. But just take a look at her, people. Just Google her up. What's her name? Can you pull that up for us?
Her name?
Yeah.
Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll Google it on my phone. Yeah. Prime Minister of New Zealand. So, New Zealand. Come on.
It's like Jacinda.
New Zealand Prime Minister. Prime Minister. Jacinda Ardern.
That's it. Jacinda Ardern.
Yeah.
Okay, take a look at her, dude. How do you think she is?
Okay,
Look at the picture.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures right now. Well, I think she is. Okay. This is. I think she's 50 something.
Yeah. Okay, that's generous of you. Yeah, she's like That's the picture you're seeing is probably she's like 36 when she was first elected.
To me, it's like she's like 54, 52.
Yeah.
She's 50 something.
Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something's very wrong. Okay. You can tell a lot about people. Okay. So, moving forward, Joe Biden is her ally. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The things going on in Victoria and Australia, this is Joe Biden's plan. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is the biggest plot to upwards redistribute wealth since the Great Depression, which was planned also. The thing is that the Great Depression was planned. That led towards the heroism of Roosevelt,
Yeah.
the New Deal, and then World War II.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the Biden plan is the plan of being complacent with China and giving China more concessions. And the Trump plan may be to have a period of the next 5 or 8 years of increased GDP growth, something that would be like what Roosevelt did with the New Deal, but that we might expect war in Australia. And maybe the movie Mad Max will be like the outcome of that war.
Wow.
Between China and the U.S. and Australia. The war will be over. The war will be because look, Australia, the relationship with China is not good. People in New Zealand and China is not good. You can't afford a home in New Zealand right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can buy a little tiny shack for like $600,000. So like New Zealand has like Los Angeles and New York real estate prices, but without an economy like California or New York to support that, you see.
Yeah.
So it's China. And I believe that I don't believe in the Uyghur story with China, and I don't believe in the Hong Kong, the Western version of the Hong Kong story with China. China is a sovereign civilization. One China policy is a good policy for China, but there's no real proposal to like restore like Aboriginals to power in Australia or New Zealand, and there's different races of Aboriginals, and some are more competent than others. Let's be real, but certainly the Aboriginals in New Zealand are more related to the Samoan people, and they're highly intelligent people, and they're actually involved in National Party politics in New Zealand, and they were anti-TPP, and so that's actually good. I can see a strong. I like Indigenous First Peoples, so I am one. So I can see that being a positive thing in terms of the logos of New Zealand and to a lesser extent Australia and the North Coast, where their Aboriginals are more related to the Indian Dravidian race. So I think that the outcomes are fascinating to ponder. Both are, we do not live in times that there's going to be like unicorns and shit like that. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
this is like pick your poison. Okay, Trump policies may lead to a war with China, whereas Biden's policies prevent a war by having the capitulation come that might come as a result of a lost war. It won't have the same number of deaths from a war. Trump's war might be nuclear deaths and military
Oh.
deaths and starvation and supply line problem deaths, which is why the United States would need to have an autarkic economy and a weak dollar policy to have industrial production be national. But on the other hand, the lockdowns and the coronavirus, edit that.
Just Corona.
Well, yes, no, you can't say that either.
Oh yeah.
You cannot say that. Okay, the beer. On the other hand,
Beer
okay,
bug.
here's the edit. Here's the edit.
Hmm.
However, with Biden, he's going to come in with the beer bug, and you're going to have as many American deaths. I think that they would allow someone like Gates to come in with COVID-22, COVID-23, COVID-24 that will be as deadly as, 10 million, 20 million dead a year for 4 years, 5 years going. And then the result after 50 million Americans are dead will be, the tattoo, RFID chip tattoos and stuff like that, and, biometric information you're going to have corporate privatized ownership of your DNA by these, it's a very bad scenario. But, I've lived through 6 decades, starting in the 70s, and I wasn't fully conscious of what's going on, but I've been on the planet a little while, and I never suspected that in the year 2020 that I would still have, that I would never, to me it seems like I'm in, 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Like for me, like I've lived a while, and I feel like still, how I remember the world, but when I think about how 2020 could be and should be and would be, yeah, this makes perfect sense. Like, we've been aware of all these ugly possible dystopic visions of the future for a long time, and we never resolved the fact that we're run by the Rothschilds, who are satanic psychopaths. And people don't understand evil because they're basically good, and then evil people don't really always understand themselves, and other evil people are self-actualized evil people, and they run things. So they're actually like enlightened evil, like they are self-actualized evil. Many evil people do things without awareness of the evil. Most evil in the world functions that way, but this is consciously evil. They do things, Yuri, for the point that they're evil. It's not like killing someone to get money. Like the money is just like whatever, money, like the money so I can kill more people. They're not killing more people to get money. Okay, the money is just a vehicle towards the aim. Like their God is the God of pain, anger, suffering. But one of the gods is revenge and so forth. So that's why resistance movements are always going to fail if they mimic the anger of the evil of its source. That's why BLM is wrong, Antifa is wrong. Any movement that is not driven by love and love alone will always be feeding the same archons, which are have the same, father of lies as the evil in the world. That's the great contradiction of social change. So this is why I have focused on that. That's why I've withdrawn from public life in such a way, so I can deal with these attacks, the slander, so I can really understand the essence of creation and life. And I'm fortunate, and I praise the one God for having these, realizations. But but I know that we're going to be fine. So that's that's the point. So Joe Biden wins. It's very bad. Short term, Trump wins. We don't know. The only possibility of anything good is if Trump wins, but it could still end up with a war with China.